Picture an ocean, stretching beyond sight and deeper than light can persist. This is the reality of what we call souls. Now picture that on this ocean there is a boat, and on this boat there are 6 people. They each take turns filling cups of water from this ocean and setting them aside, waiting for them to evaporate in the endless midday sun. Each cup is a life. Every time one is filled, a soul is brought into the world, and every time one is emptied, a soul leaves it. As a soul dissipates, it does not go nowhere. In fact, it returns to the ocean from whence it came, eventually, in the form of rain. All souls, your souls included, are part of this ocean, and by extension there are untold numbers of aspects of others hidden inside you. It is impossible for a whole soul to be reconstituted once it is truly gone, but shreds of them can remain in any one individual. Now picture that the cup is filled, set aside, and by some foul endeavour the water becomes oil, tar, stained and corrupted. This is what it is to hate, to truly hate. Hate colours the soul. It spreads throughout the entire system, shutting down all other feelings and becoming central to the life and the intent of the person. The object of the hatred may or not be present, but the imagined words and hostile actions against the hated one can dominate at times. One turns their attention to other matters and may for a time be driven in other directions, but then the wave of ill thoughts will return with a vengeance. Once again the soul is coloured completely, and all the negative energy that one can muster is thrown into the imagined ill will racing wildly around the mind. Hatred becomes a sickness of the mind and of the heart, for where hatred has claimed possession there is no room for love, for happiness, for joy, for hope. Left unchecked, hate can completely poison the soul. A figure on this boat notices, and knowing that this tar cannot evaporate, simply tips it out into the water. The tar sinks, it sinks some more, no longer possible for it to be picked up by the people on the surface until it reaches the bottom of the ocean. It is not alone in its predicament. The bottom of the ocean is coated in this tar, previous corruptions. When the world was young, this was not the case. The tar was rare and weak, but over time this hatred coalesced and became a great stain on mortal souls. This stain, given enough time, mass and solitude, awoke. It gave itself a name and found a purpose. Born of hate, she is known by many titles. She who ruins, Our Lady in Darkness, but she only has one true name. In my tongue we call her the Jormungandr, the serpent that would consume the world, but you would have no luck finding her as such. It has been a long time since my people were at all concerned with serpents consuming the world. The name she gives herself, and crucially the names that she gives her followers, is Nemet, the mistress of hate. I pity her in a way, created solely by the scraps and leftovers of other better beings, but she has no such pity for anything else, anyone else. She wishes to stir up hate, mix it and mingle it with more beings, more souls, until all is tar, until she herself is so large that those on the boat have no choice but to sample from her dark mass. In short, to corrupt everything, to become everything. She cannot come into the world unprovoked, however. She must have something beckoning her and fueling the fire. This fort was created for the sole purpose of destroying those who would herald her return. This group has formed many times over centuries, drawn together by their collective hatred, but only once have they had enough power to rouse Nemet. They came as a warning of her arrivals, harbingers of the desolation she causes, portents of dark times to come. This is how they draw their own name. They call themselves the Omen. To further her plan, the last great Omen created a home for something, a being whose very existence functioned as a dark vacuum of souls, a vortex that both drags the water down into her corrupted and brings her own darkness to the surface. This vacuum is known as the whirling nothing, and the creature they created resides at its center. It is a place on the plane of shadow that can utterly corrupt any soul that it comes into contact with. And since the Shadowfell is the plane where lost souls go, they often walk themselves into this nothing with no chance of escape, corrupted and undefined from themselves, merely part of the whole. The order that in better days, the Order of the Storm's Eye, called this fort home, was merely a group of warriors from scattered backgrounds who found in each other a kinship, and in Omen a purpose. The just of this world rose up around them, and I called myself their ally proudly. I offered this fort a place I could only allow entry into, and pledged my life to their service. The details are not important, but millennia ago they succeeded. Omen destroyed and Nemet put back to rest. They did this with not only spell and blade, but with a great ritual known as the sealing, for which they needed help. Cast our minds back to these people on the boat. Seeing as they are the only things on this ocean, they do find themselves thirsty from time to time, and do drink from a cup. This consumed water mingles with every other drop of water ever supped by this being, and becomes one of many. This is what we would call a vessel, but in past scriptures they have been called sages, which is a slightly more agreeable term. A creature whose soul is mingled with and aware of the souls previously within this being are able to draw upon the past and read from the very worlds carved into the world by Anam Worldfather himself. 6 of them, there are the sages, and they as individuals may not be aware of their powers, or even that they are a sage, this fabled being. Over time, the soul is sweated out, returned to the ocean the same as any other being, but not before its knowledge is passed on to the other souls residing within. It is unknown to me why Anam forged the world in such a way that the sages would come to be, but his will is not mine to question. Perhaps he foresaw Nemet trying to consume the world and wanted a failsafe to prevent her success. Who knows? But fate wills it either way. These 6 sages embody different aspects of goodness. The Sage of Light, who stands for duty and bravery. The Sage of Dark, who stands for persistence and humility. The Sage of Fire, who stands for strength and passion. The Sage of Sky, who stands for flexibility and freedom. The Sage of Stone, who stands for endurance and solidarity. I am proud to say that the 6th of these, the Sage of the Sea, is me, which explains why I have so much knowledge on this topic. However, there is a long way to go before all 6 of us can be brought together, and we are all required if the corruption on this world is to be reversed. The sages can become aware of their role on their own once enough power has been compounded into them, but this does not mean they have what we call opened their dead eyes. To become awoken, they must be brought here, where the power suffused into very air will crack the shell of their former selves. It is not immediate in most cases, but even beginning to awaken can be absolutely instrumental. I have been weakened by the foul energy of the artifact you call the motor coil, one of the grand relics. I would be able to fight, but if I were to fall, then the next Sage of the Sea would be born, and you would A, lose your best source of information when it comes to this whole thing, and B, have to go and find a new Sage, and C, try and convince the family that you need their baby to save the world, which probably wouldn't go very well. As I said, they might not be aware, and Omen could have some powerful magics that reveal the truth to them and them alone. I fear Omen is already searching for the sages so they can dispose of them before they open their dead eyes. I cannot say. However, I can tell you what kind of people they are likely to be. Perhaps people you have cheated, left stranded, those you have killed in gory fashion or butchered and left to die. I understand in your profession you do make enemies, but If you find one loose thread, the whole weave shall unravel. If you were the sages, a sign would have presented itself upon your entry to the castle, or perhaps even beforehand. No, I do not believe you are, but I believe that you are an instrumental group of people. Your role to play in their awakening cannot be understated. This is hidden from me, but I can tell you this much. The sages all tend to be found causing, fighting, or surrounded by important events in the history of the world. Look for great change in the world, great strife, and you are likely to find a sage in their midst, for the good side or not so much. Each sage always has certain qualities to them that keep them in common to all previous sages of that type. For example, all sages of Sky I have known are hopeful individuals, typically quite young when they are awakened. They're never settled and always seek to better themselves or the world around them. If you believe you have found a sage, bring them here. If the door can be seen by them without going through the trials, they are a sage. Simple. Another bit of information: the Sage of Fire, whoever they may be, is aware of their status. They know their significance but have not come forward to become awoken. They cannot see to their past selves, but they know that they are able to do so given the opportunity. They shy away from their duties, but they are, no disrespect, are incredibly powerful nonetheless. Originally, their plan may have been petty revenge on your group before they became under the influence of Nemet, but now their desires are somewhat more esoteric. They are likely trying to stir up hatred, drive people into a frenzy so that they may die and become one of the many dark blots on the timeline of the world. Their net will be wide, and it is unlikely that more than one or two will be in any one place, but their influence will be felt all across Astora. Their ultimate goal could be nothing